Forte from SNIA. And just before I start going through the slides, the iSCSI management API specification was developed within the IP storage technical work group at SNIA over the past couple of years, maybe more. And it was approved as an ANSI standard just last month. Hey! And not yet published, but I expect that within a couple of months it will be published. The other thing I'll mention up front is this API is geared towards initiator-based management, and this is generally a question or two about whether it supports target management and evangelism. All right, so these are some of the items I'll be going over in this presentation. So an overview of IMA, relevance to various applications, relation to some other standard APIs, what functionality it provides, and then we'll go into a description of the IMA objects as well as the APIs in a little more depth. And then finally, we'll talk a little bit about version 2 and what we're planning for the next version. And if you have any questions as we move along, just feel free to interrupt. Okay, so IMA is a C language library implementation. There are two components. One is a common library, the other is there's one or more vendor-specific plugins. And as I mentioned already, it's initiative-based management. And then if anybody's familiar with the Fiber Channel HB API, iSCSI Management API is analogous to that. A little bit both in its architecture as well as some of the functionality it provides, obviously, given the differences between Fiber Channel and iSCSI transports, there's obviously differences in the API specifics. So, and if anybody's familiar with the multi-path management API, it's complementary to that, in that multi-path management API presents multi-path logical unit objects to the client. Those multi-path logical unit objects have one or more transports underneath them, and by drilling down to the transports, Fiber Channel iSCSI, you can then refer to these APIs, iSCSI Management API, Fiber Channel HB API, to get further information about that path. And SNIA, mentioned briefly here, a couple slides later, I'll talk a little bit more in depth about its relationship, but just briefly, it enables iSCSI initiator profile provider. Okay, here's a component diagram for IMA. You can see the common library that I mentioned, and then this just shows a couple of vendor plugins. Each of these vendor plugins would present objects. The common library aggregates those objects and presents them through a common API to the clients. I think there's much more to be said here. This vendor plugin and common library framework implementation can be slightly different on a per basis, but basically what it amounts to is some type of configuration file that holds the vendor plugin .so locations, or give them OS, a DLL, and the common library would understand which ones it would load. So relevance, so it gives you a common API across vendor implementation, hopefully a common API across OSs. It both enables small-scale management applications as well as an enabler for SNIS with respect to the iSCSI initiator profile. And the mapping that's mentioned here is the current SNIS 1.1 and beyond has within the iSCSI initiator profile properties mappings to iSCSI management API object properties. As we